Today, my fifth attempt of trying to do this video over the last 4 days. I feel this is important in some way, and so I want to talk about it. So after 25 years, the European Union and 4 countries in South America, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay, have agreed to a tariff-free agreement. Now, this agreement has not been approved yet by the Europeans, and the French and Netherlands and Poland, all food producers, are against it right off the bat. But what interests me is that the EU and the Mercosur, which stands for Southern Common Market, has come to an agreement. 25 years. Now, I don't think, or I believe, that this agreement, after 25 years of negotiation, is coming due now because we're entering into a new world. Now, the EU sends around $38 billion and $22 billion in goods and services. So you're talking about $60 billion. This covers 900 different products, 90% of what they talk about, and this is going to basically be tariff-free on everything but 10% of the products. Now, all the things we know about these agreements, are they burning down the forest? Are they using pesticides or whatever? Everyone has something to say about this. But the point is that they did this. So what do I mean by that, and what does it mean to us? Well, everybody who watches this channel knows that I believe that we have the old world as of 2019, and we still have a foot in that old world. We have a transition world. This is going to take, in my opinion, 10 to 15 years. We're 2 years in, maybe 3 years. We're in the 3rd year. And then finally, there'll be the final world that we live in after we deglobalize, so forth, whatever you want to call it, supply chain, reinvention, doesn't matter what you call it. We are changing everything. Now, I work with a gentleman, and he has long experience in the tech industry, and it was interesting that he came to me and he said, I believe that you're going to see agreements across the world based on your ability to bring tech personnel to the table. In other words, you can have technology, but you have to run it. We just saw with Japan and Rapidus that they say, even though we have the process, the money, and the commitment, we don't have the people when this all gets said and done. America, we don't have the professionals to do this. So when you think of how we're entering into this new world, especially during the transition phase, a couple things stand out to me. One, who would have ever thought that Europe would sign an agreement with South America, okay? And when you look at what's going on in tech, if we go in and, if we put on tariffs on Japan, is Japan going to turn and cut a deal with somebody else because of that? Look at South Korea. They're panicking right now. If we put on tariffs on them, it could be the end of their export industries. So as we are transitioning into the new world, I always thought it was going to be like, which I think it will be, Canada, America, and Mexico as the strongest regional global power for the next 25, 30 years, in my personal opinion, okay? Could be wrong, but that's my personal opinion. And I will admit, I thought of it as geographic. If you remember my first comments on the euro, I felt that there was a narrative, and I still do, that the Europeans will be working with North Africa, Algeria, and so forth on setting up different, let's say, common market, we'll call it, all right? Again, I was thinking geographic. It wasn't until the person that called me that I started thinking, you know what, maybe this could be geographic, but maybe it's going to be on many different levels. It could be on a technology level. This is a food level, all right? So how is the world going to divide itself up what they consider is in their best interest, all right? Now, we're acting in what we believe is our best interest, and we're saying that we're going to impose tariffs on Mexico and Canada, which I think is very short-sighted, but hey, you know what? Not me making the decision, because in the end, after the transition period, I think we'll be one. It will be very integrated economies, just my personal opinion. We already are. We can't get around it, all right? If we cut off, if Canada, the Trump of Canada just says, you put these tariffs on us, and he says, we're cutting off your electricity, oil and gas, and phosphate. Let me tell you something. That's going to hurt badly. It could take us to a place we don't want to go. So let's not think of this new world in geographic terms. We have to understand who has the technology, who has the people to run the technology, who has the money, the process, and the commitment to build out new avenues of production that don't exist today. The chip factories being built, the power centers being built. And this goes back to Nippon Steel. People are saying, well, Nippon Steel, it wants to buy US steel so they can ship their steel to America. It's not the case. They know the tariffs are coming. They want to own US steel because they want to be here to make money, because steel is still being used. And by the way, we have the cheapest gas in the world. And if you're making steel through an arc furnace, trust me, you're using gas. So they're importing 100% of their gas. We have the cheapest gas in the world. So now when you start looking at regions, countries, and companies, we really have to start, quote unquote, thinking out of the box. It would be great if everyone just divided themselves up geographically, right? But it doesn't seem that that is what is starting to happen. We are now seeing real agreements that have nothing to do with geography, but it has everything with doing with, as we have said, controlling, securing your markets, your minerals, your energy, and your food. These are the things that are driving decisions today, and they're not being driven by companies. They're being driven by the governments, which is another major narrative that I believe that our next 15 years, 20 years, most of the investment is going to be driven by countries. They're going to say, this is what we want. We want partners. Do you want to be our partner? If not, fine, we'll get another partner. But this is what we're putting the money to. So, what do you think? What agreements could you see across the world that might involve, might involve food, might involve energy, technology? How about population, demographics? How is Europe going to handle demographics? How do they come together or split apart? I don't know. What do you think? Like and follow, and certainly tell me in the comments.